The Strophes of Omar Khayyam, translated from the Persian by John Leslie Garner, with an introduction and notes. Milwaukee, The Corbett and Skidmore Company, 1888. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information, or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Algy Pug. Quant aux utilitaires, utopistes, économistes, saint-simonistes et autres qui lui demanderont à quoi cela rime, il répondra: le premier vers rime avec le second, quand la rime n'est pas mauvaise, et ainsi de suite. Théophile Gautier. Introduction. Omar Khayyam was born in the first half of the 11th century of our era at Naishapur, a small town in the province of Khorasan, a place which modern travellers describe as singularly uninteresting, but which at that time was of no little importance. The details which we possess of his life are exceedingly meagre, but doubtless true. His boyhood was entirely uneventful. He completed his studies at the Madrasah of Naishapur, an institution celebrated for the number of noted men who had there received their education, in the year 1042. While at school his two most intimate friends were Nizam-ul-Mulk and Hassan Sabbah, both of whom afterwards became celebrated in their country's history. One day, little imagining the influence it was destined to have on their careers, they jokingly entered into a boyish compact. According to the terms of this agreement, the one who should be most highly favoured by fortune was to interest himself in the advancement of his comrades. Their biographers relate that it had the effect of stimulating their zeal, each applying himself to his studies most assiduously. It was not long before the treaty was put to the test, for Nizam-ul-Mulk was called to a position in the government, and his companions immediately demanded the fulfilment of their oath. Hassan Sabbah, ambitious, jealous, and crafty, was given a place at court, while Omar, who seems to have been of a studious and retiring disposition, was, in accordance with his request, made chief of his village. Living quietly at Naishapur, he pursued his favourite studies of philosophy, mathematics, and poetry, and became a philosopher, a sceptic, and a fatalist. Following the custom of Persian poets, he adopted a takhulus, or poetical name, choosing that of Khayyam, an appellation suggested by the trade of his father, which was that of a tent-maker. His countrymen say that his extreme modesty prevented him from assuming a more pretentious name, the Oriental poets as a rule sharing the proverbial modesty of their class, thus Firdusi, the celestial, Hafiz, the preserver, Sadi, the felicitous. The chroniclers relate that Omar was fond of spending the evening on the terrace before his house in company with his friends, surrounded by musicians and drinking wine, which was presented in turn to all the symposiasts by the Saki or cupbearer, a custom which still prevails in the East. He seems to have passed through those days with the indolence and indifference of a god. Places of honour were offered him by the government, but he preferred to spend his time in a vain search for some rhyme for the reason of things, although he well knew that his aim was unattainable. His death occurred in the year 1123 of the Christian era. The various manuscripts, the texts used in his translation were Winfield's, Nicolas', and the lithographed editions of Lucknow, contain more than 1,000 quatrains ascribed to Omar, although in this number there is constant repetition of ideas expressed in slightly varying diction. It is impossible to tell how many of these are spurious, for it is highly probable that many have crept into later editions, having been added by overzealous copyists unable to accept Omar's philosophy, or by readers who scribbled antagonistic strophes on the margins of their copies, which afterwards found their way into the text. This supposition is supported by the fact that in the larger collections contradictory stanzas often are found on the same page. The Rubaiyat, a poetic form in great favour in the East, seems peculiarly suited to Omar's thoughts. In the original the first, second, and fourth lines rhyme,
Sample complete. Ready to continue?